The Shark Deck.
President Biden brought the funny at the White House Correspondent's dinner on Saturday. Hi, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. The president said, I believe in the First Amendment, not just because my good friend Jimmy Madison wrote it. Look, I get that age is a completely reasonable issue. It's in everybody's mind, and by everybody, I mean the New York Times. Headline, Biden's advanced age is a big issue. Trump's, however, is not. They say I'm ancient. I say I'm wise. They say I'm over the hill. Don Lemon would say, that's a man in his prime. That one's really good. I want everybody to have fun tonight, but please be safe. If you find yourself disoriented or confused, you're either drunk or Marjorie Taylor Greene. Wow. The president said, it's great that the cable networks are here tonight. MSNBC, owned by NBC Universal. Fox News, owned by Dominion Voting Systems. Last year, your favorite Fox News reporters were able to attend because they were fully vaccinated and boosted. This year, with that $787 million settlement, they're here because they couldn't say no to a free meal. Your host, Roy Wood Jr. These are hit and miss, but I'm sure he told them better than I will. Real quick, Mr. President, I think you left some of your classified documents up here. I'll put them in a safe place. Roy said, I'm well aware that not everybody in this room knows who I am, so let's address the elephant in the room. Half of the room thinks I'm Kenan Thompson. The other half thinks I'm Louis Armstrong. President Biden thinks I'm the daddy on Family Matters. He joked about Don Lemon. How funny is it that you work in the news, then watch on the news that you got fired from the news? Tucker Carlson's out of a job. Some people celebrating, but to Tucker's staff, I want you to know that I know what you're feeling. I work at The Daily Show, so I too have been blindsided by the sudden departure of a host on a fake news program. Fox claimed that Dominion conspired with the Democrats to rig the election. The Democrats should be flattered that they thought y'all were smart enough to rig an election. He addressed Ron DeSantis and said, Ron, everybody knows how to do politics. This is America. We don't pass laws. You make a promise to voters and then you don't do it. That's what the great leaders in this room understand. This one's pretty good. When the retirement age went up 2 years ago to 64 in France, they rioted because they didn't want to work till 64. Meanwhile, in America, we have an 80-year-old man begging us for 4 more years of work. Good stuff. All right, awkward transition. I have sad news to begin the program today. John Mulaney mourning the loss of his beloved dog, Peutunia. John Mulaney shared a photo on Instagram on Friday saying, Peutunia, I loved you from the first moment I saw you. Rest in peace. Thank you for being my little shadow. I did watch John Mulaney's special on Sunday, and I don't come here to be negative. I will just share my experience. I was watching it, and I'm like, this is fine. And around the 29-minute mark, my desire to go watch The Night Agent outweighed my desire to see what Mulaney had to say for the rest of the show, so I bailed. It's not bad at all. I'm sure you'll watch it and be like, wow, that was really funny. Johnny Mac must be in a bad mood. Totally get it. It's not going to make my end-of-the-year list, but it's not bad. There's nothing remarkable about it. And I reflected on this last night, and I think I came away feeling like John Mulaney was doing a performance. I understand all stand-up comedy is a performance, but it just I didn't feel connected to it. Even though the guy is bearing a soul and telling a stylized version of what happened to him, it just didn't connect with me. So I just wasn't feeling that one. Hope you enjoyed it. I know a lot of people did, and the reviews were very good. Radar Online took a look at Bill Cosby's upcoming tour. They wrote, disgraced sex pest Bill Cosby, 85, will still get redemption with a new comedy career, as Radar Online is told promoters are begging the actor to tour, despite reports that say otherwise. There were some rumors going around that comedy clubs were not willing to book Mr. Cosby. His representative, Andrew Wyatt, told Radar Online, unfortunately, when we announced the summer tour on the Scott Spears radio show last year, alleged accusers, and I think Radar Online pointed out that there were 6 alleged accusers came out of hiding in order to create a distraction without having any proof, facts, or truth. I can emphatically state that Mr. Cosby is not having a hard time locking down venues. We've been contacted by at least 10 promoters wanting to tour him, as well as many nonprofit organizations requesting for Mr. Cosby to perform/host private events. Pete Davidson will host Saturday Night Live this upcoming Saturday. He was on Fallon's show and he joked, that show's hard. I had a weird little gig there because I would do my thing once in a while and they'd let me do whatever. But I was like, you guys work really hard. I was like, I'm going to be in more than one sketch? That's crazy. Kenan Thompson said, it's like a week off for us because Pete knows how to do the show. We don't have to hand walk him through every single part of it. Usually the hosts come with ideas too, so a quarter of the show is almost already done. Just a fun, easy week for us. He's a good kid. He's done a lot of work in a short amount of time at a very high level, so we're all just proud of him and want to support him. I did see he was hanging out with Chase Sweet Wonders. No, not Kenan Thompson. Pete Davidson. Clarify who you mean by he, John. You get in trouble with the pronouns. Was hanging out with Chase Sweet Wonders. So they didn't take pictures together at the little presser last week, but they were hanging out this weekend. Jorge Condobolo has cleared the air with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You know her as AOC. If you have watched his recent special Vacation Baby on YouTube, you know the setup here. If not, you should watch it. I'll try and condense it. Back when, before she was famous, he got a text from her saying they should collaborate, and he kind of blew her off, and he tells a funny version of that. AOC had texted him, if you ever like to collaborate, let me know. My door's open. And Jorge said, and I replied, I'm pretty busy right now. Why don't you get back to me next year? And then tagged it, thanks for doing what you do, Alexis. Jorge then says, I'm reading a scroll at the bottom of the screen. It says Alexandria Ocasio. Oh, shoot, was that the lady? Shamelessly, the night she won, I finally wrote back, oh my God, you did it. I knew you'd win. So last week, Jorge issued a public apology to her. AOC wrote back, I completely and totally understand. This is hilarious. Jorge wrote, oh, thank God. You know, we should totally collaborate sometime.
Do you love your Peloton?
Oh, I sure do.
Well, I know you do because you started a podcast about one. If you love your Peloton and can't get enough of it and all the news that goes along with it, you should check out our show. It's called The Clip Out. It's a great place to go for instructor news, new classes, motivational tips, corporate machination.
We don't just tell you the news, we also give you our thoughts on why things are happening. And each week we also interview a member of the Peloton community. Sometimes it's, somebody like me, just a regular person riding their bike.
Sometimes it's Snooki.
You never know.
You never know.
The Clip Out is about anyone who loves their Peloton.
Every week we take you behind the scenes and inside the world of Peloton. The Clip Out is available wherever you get your podcasts or check out our website,
theclipout.com.
If you like what I do here, go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Now, you hear this? Now, I'm emotionally torn about this. I woke up on Monday, and I opened up the app for the National Donuts chain, and the National Donuts chain was like, hey, if you buy anything on Monday, we'll give you a free medium. And I'm like, well, that's awesome, but I kind of want a large. Can I, take the free medium and give you an extra $2 and you give me a large? Nope. It's a free medium or pay for one yourself. And I'm like, So, I feel bad that they gave me this free coffee, but it's not big enough. Fortunately for me, Kara Wood, you know her. She's got the book, The Power of the Streak, and she's got the newsletter called Knock It Off. Told you about that yesterday. Well, apparently, she appreciated my live read yesterday. I did some wordplay in there. I didn't actually say anything. Read the transcript. I didn't say a thing, but I did put some spin on a couple of the words and got a good chuckle out of a bunch of people, including Kara Wood. So she bought me 3 coffees at buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. Apparently, I made her giggle while she was driving to work. Kara, thank you for the coffees. I'm going to take your $5 out of the National Donuts chain, and I'll get a large iced coffee like I want, not this little small one. But it's free. It's like, hey, Johnny Mac, they gave you a free coffee. Why don't you shut up and appreciate it? I know, right? Scott Aukerman has hit episode 800 of the Comedy Bang Bang podcast. Variety asked, will he wrap it up? And he said, I don't feel creatively stifled by it. And in my mind, there are things approaching like the 1000th episode or the 20th anniversary. You always kind of go, be interesting to end on a nice round number. Then you check in with yourself. Do you even want to end it? You don't have to end on a nice round number. I'm semi-worried about passing away before I decide to end the show and having the last episode ever be a clunker, so I'm really interested in recording a final episode that we keep in the vault in case I pass away, but at this point now, I'm still in it, still enjoying it. Feels weird to be doing anything at my age, but it's something that I still love doing. Kind of like that idea. Maybe I'll record an episode about Adam Sandler saying nice things, and I'll schedule it for, 2090, and then those of you who are still around will magically get an episode one day. Although, who's paying for the hosting? Never mind. Hey, remember that article in Vulture with the guy who booked the Late Late Show comedians? His name is Ryan Williams. Very good article. I shared it in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast group last week. Vulture asked Ryan Williams, the booker, hey, any young comedians you feel particularly proud of championed early on? Ryan said, I feel like I got on the ground floor of the Atsuko Atsuka train. She's incredible. It was another one of those moments where I watched the clip and I got so excited about the possibility of putting that person on television. She's got a unique vibe, kind of a childlike innocence with a really intelligent, cynical take wrapped up in it. Yeah, I love her. All right, Ryan, was there a set where you were like, this is unique, I got to put this on TV? He said, I'm really proud of the Maria Bamford set that we had about a year ago. I got an email with the original, which was focused on her mother passing away and dealing with that grief of that in a charming way. That's exactly the type of thing I would normally try to steer a stand-up comedian away from. I'd say, this is incredible and thoughtful and brilliant, but maybe not the best fit for our audience. But she was kind and gracious enough to send over another set that wasn't sort of focused on death and morbidity. And comparing the two of them, it took the wind out of my sails. I was like, if we have the choice to put this really emotionally riveting set on air, I think we have to go for it. The response to Maria's set was really strong and positive, and I think that kind of gave us the green light for the past year or so to be a little more daring. He also talked about the censors. This is interesting. He said, you're usually able to find a compromise with the comedian that preserves the integrity of the joke, but there are moments of silliness. You can say erection. You can't say hard. It's that kind of stuff. Where for some reason, the very clinical, almost more repulsive names for things are fine, whereas the more colloquial slang terms get shut down by standards and practices. Try and get to more of that article tomorrow. Really good. And again, I shared it in the Facebook group, Daily Comedy News Podcast group. Another really good read was from the Huffington Post. Lawrence Ross wrote a take summarizing how a generation of comedians are kind of reaching their end. I'm sharing the lead there because I don't want you to think that he was just beating up on Monique, but he did beat up on Monique. Lawrence Ross for Huffington Post writes, Monique's much-anticipated Netflix special, My Name is Monique, is bad, as in not good, double plus ungood, terrible. A profane therapy session without the funny introspection that comes from projectile vomiting your pain. An aimless screed that masquerades as humor. A comedy special foreshadowed by the legitimate social issues of pay equity, colorism, fat phobia, and Jim Crow Hollywood. It fell short of any sense of being a validation of her protest. But you know what? Monique ain't alone. Lawrence Ross writes, Marlon Wayans' God Loves Me was awful. Chris Rock's selective outrage was pitiful. And Dave Chappelle now does sort of an unfunny black libertarian shtick that hews embarrassingly close to the homophobia of right-wing nutcases. Why? Why are these iconic black Gen X comedians not funny in 2023? Easy. They don't have anything relevant to say anymore. And that scares them more than anything else in the world. The black Gen X comedy scene hit right during the Bill Clinton era of the 90s, just as hip-hop moved from niche music to a global phenomenon. Black Gen X comedians perfectly represented hip-hop and the attitude of black Gen Xers. The children of the movements in the 60s and 70s, black Gen Xers were the beneficiaries of a new open world that created complications and problems. Integrated schools, busing, segregated schools, Reaganomics, the AIDS crisis, the crack epidemic, affirmative action, the suburbs, pop culture, black music and white music are all represented by the average De La Soul joint. That was black Gen X in a nutshell. And when it came to comedy, they were the children of parents who played Red Fox, Slappy White, Franklin Ajay, and Richard Pryor albums, and corny stuff like Bob Newhart that just happened to be on the shelf, so you played it too. When HBO was Black Twitter before Black Twitter, Def Comedy Jam was our communal comedic church. The observational comedy of Rock Chappelle, Mac, Harvey, Monique, and Wayans was so ubiquitous in our lives, the way we say Rock Chappelle, Mac, Harvey, Monique, and Wayans by one name. They were tapped into the black zeitgeist. They understood us. Flash forward to 30 years later, what has changed? Well, a lot. This is a really good article. Ross writes, many of the black Gen X comedians struggle to recapture that piece of the blackness of today that made them seem relevant in the past. Does money and fame remove you from the humanity that struggling up-and-coming comedians see as you're protected by your tinted windows and security crew? Or maybe ego makes you think you're being deep, but you're not. Or maybe old people get old and, out of touch. Very, very good article. And that's your comedy news for today. Follow the show for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your shows, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Once in a generation, a new British royal dynasty takes shape. I am Mark Francis, host of Palace Intrigue, a daily podcast about the royal family, and the only place you can get all the news, gossip, and updates from inside and outside the palace. From Harry and Meghan in California to Kate and William in the UK, along with King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince Andrew, and the whole cast of characters. This coronation will be one for the ages, and we'll bring you every detail on every moment in just a few minutes, every day. Hear Palace Intrigue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts.